Good morning and welcome back to Morning Joy. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and very excited to introduce our next guest. He's a founding member of Aquinas Communications, a multimedia network for Catholic radio stations, and is a managing partner of Our Lady of Good Success Productions. He has a rich and diverse background in radio broadcasting, sales management, and is an entrepreneur. Tom Oglesby, good morning and welcome to the show, Tom.
Well, good morning, Keith. Good to be with you.
Likewise. My goodness. First off, I have to say, on behalf of everyone here, we're thankful for you to be airing Morning Joy in Dubuque, Iowa, which is where Aquinas Communications is based. So thank you so much. But
well, many thanks to Debbie Georgiani. She was the driving influence on that, Keith.
She is a driving influence, that's for sure. We love our Debbie Georgiani here. But you've yourself have been involved in Catholic radio for decades. So I guess our first question would be, what would you say is the importance of Catholic media in our current cultural climate?
Wow, do you think we can get our arms around that? Given today's culture, Keith,
It is.
I think Catholic radio, Catholic media of all kinds, but Catholic radio especially is the biggest driver of evangelism that we can imagine. One, it's the cost per thousand, the acquisition of listeners and touching people is huge, and it's very affordable until you go to pay the bills.
Right.
But people will listen to the radio in a curiosity way, in a way that our neighbors and our families would never ask us. So it's got that cloak of invisibility, anonymity. It's just huge, and I think it's growing, given the fact that the cultural shift is moving to the dark side, and we need to be vigilant, draw the line in the sand, and defend Christ.
Amen. Yeah, actually, speaking of Debbie, she mentioned, this might have been a couple weeks ago, but it really stuck with me that 40% of listeners on Catholic radio aren't even Catholic. So that strikes true that it's kind of this layer of being anonymous. Like, you're not going to ask your questions about the Catholic faith to your neighbor. You can hear it kind of in a manner that you're, not going to be, maybe embarrassed. I don't know what the case may be, but...
Well, they want to know the truth, but it's not cool to be a follower of Christ. It's not cool. You're going to be ostracized, marginalized, ridiculed, and but deep down, people know that Christ is the answer, and Catholic radio is front and center in delivering those answers, Keith.
Yeah, and you mentioned keeping Christ front and center. How does Aquinas Communications carry out its mission of education?
Well, we're blessed with some great volunteers, and we have been since we formed in 2013. We've got officers and directors and volunteers and just, and sometimes people only do something once a year. But we, in addition to the radio station, so get a load of this, the existing radio station, KCRD, is in the process of acquiring a translator to boost their signal to the west of the city of Dubuque, Iowa.
Wow.
And we are working in cooperation with other nonprofits to bring low-power FMs to Dyersville, Iowa. That's where the Field of Dreams is. And also Platteville, Wisconsin, where a state university is. So we're helping that way. We do some evangelization conferences, usually in the spring around Lent and later in the year. This is Debbie and Adam were just in last autumn.
That's right.
With a great program that they did on the spirit world. And we've got a tremendous Catholic publication called the Bellowing Ox Magazine. And if anybody wants to get a copy of that, go to kcrd-fm.org, and there's a sign up, a link to get that directly mailed to your home.
Yeah.
And then we're awfully big about the Rosary. We do Rosary rallies on first Saturdays, and some months we have more than one Rosary rally. So those are really the four big ways that we're trying to evangelize: by broadcasting, by print media, and then get out and press some flesh face to face.
I love how you talked about the ability to volunteer in a Catholic radio station, because I think when you think volunteer, it's usually at, helping serve the poor. There's other ways to volunteer for our Catholic faith, and if you have the talents, it's perfect to jump into Catholic radio, because you do so much for spreading the truth and joy of
I
our.
don't know any Catholic radio station that's got too many volunteers.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, another thing that popped in my head. So, yeah, you mentioned the bellowing ox. Now, from what I saw, it's a really robust newsletter. Is it just specifically for those living in Iowa, or is it something that anybody could read?
It's a really unique publication. The articles are contributed by ordinary people like you and me, and you know, somebody will get a copy of the Bellowing Ox, and they'll write or they'll call and they'll say, we should do something on Divine Mercy, or we should do something on the first Saturdays or whatever. And if you listen to them long enough, they've got an article already in their mind, and most articles are 600 or 800 words. Some of them go longer, into the thousands of words. But so these are ordinary people that are submitting articles. The feedback is just incredible. We mail something on the order of 6,000 copies 4 times a year. They come out on the change of season. So we just had one in the month of June, which was the summer solstice. The next one, the vernal equinox, or excuse me, the autumnal equinox in September, and then again in December will be the next publication. So it's something magical about it, the way that the publishers and editors reach out to people all across the country, Keith.
Yeah, like I said, just looking at it, I get the sense of orthodoxy and authentic Catholic faith right after just reading the first page. So it's definitely something that I recommend checking out. Speaking of checking out, what is the story of the founding of Aquinas Communications?
Well, it's a cheeseburger, bacon cheeseburger to be exact. In 2013, there was a FCC window to apply for construction permits for low power FM stations, and I got that information late to the game, about this time of the year, in June and July. I called a woman, Colleen Pasnek, who was running the Eucharistic Adoration Chapel, the Power of Prayer Chapel, which is celebrating nearly 50 years of continuous adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. And she and I got together up the street at the West Dubuque Tap, had a bacon cheeseburger, and said, do you think there'd be anybody wanting to support a Catholic radio station? And she said, yeah, there's been some talk about that. I said, well, I've got some information. And she says, well, I got some names. And we got together on a Saturday morning after Mass and had a public information meeting. And the response was overwhelming. By the end of the year, we had filed with the Federal Communications Commission. On the eve of St. Thomas Aquinas's feast day in January, we received confirmation to build the station, a construction permit. And we thought that was a great godsend on the eve of our patron saint. And then so that's 2014, by February 24th, 2015, we began broadcasting. In the middle of an ice storm, we had guys up on a tower putting the last coax cable on the antenna, and we began broadcasting since 2015, and we held a public information meeting then later. And oddly enough, Dave Vacherez was the gentleman who came in to host our meeting. So
Wow.
We've known Dave, the gentleman who's on the air from Annunciation Radio for these many years, and we thank him for his service.
Wow. All started with a bacon cheeseburger, huh? I'm never going to eat it.
They have the best cheeseburgers, let me tell you.
Anytime I eat one of those now, moving forward, I'm always going to think of Aquinas Communications. So that actually is good, because then I'll remember you guys and keep you all in my prayers. But speaking of prayers, what is the best piece of spiritual advice you've ever heard?
I don't know who it was. Maybe it was more than one guy. The best piece of spiritual advice is stay in a state of grace, and the the corollary to it, the instruction book that goes along with it, is frequent confession. And for me, Keith, I find great peace and humility in weekly confession, weekly or as close to that as I can. And I think it's made a better person of me, because without Jesus Christ, I'm not a very nice guy.
I feel you on that. Yeah, the times that I've been able to go on a weekly basis, there's something different. There really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I think of myself as that broken cup that keeps leaking, and if I don't go for a refill frequently, I'm going to be empty.
I also feel that as well. That's a great metaphor for putting it. Any lasting message you'd like to give our listeners, even your listeners, if they're watching this on the YouTubes or the social medias, as they start their day?
Well, the whole concept of catechesis and knowledge of the faith, I heard Adam talking about the infallibility. And, most Catholics don't know their faith. But the Baltimore Catechism told us years and years ago that it's our responsibility to know him, love him, and serve him. And you can't love him and serve him if you don't know him. So get to know Christ.
Love it. My goodness. Thank you so much, Tom Oglesby, for joining us. He is one of the founding members of Aquinas Communications. You can find more at kcrd-fm.org. And that's the end of Morning Joy. My goodness, it's been wonderful spending time with you. If you're listening in the car, if you're going to or listening to Mass, or maybe going to Mass, whatever the case may be, obviously we ask for your prayers, and we'll keep you in our prayers. But it's time for our after show clubhouse. You got to find us on all kind of the social medias. Just search Morning Joy or GRN Online as they produce us. So that way we can debrief on today's show. It's a little bit more relaxed, and you can join us in the conversation as well in the live comments. So make sure to search Morning Joy, GRN Online. And if this is us parting ways, then hey, God bless and make it a joyful day. We'll see you tomorrow.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.